They're on the ride that few people thought possible. And Eagles fans are forgetting that they have often said, why? Eagles, why? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Why Eagles, Why, your Philadelphia Eagles blood pressure pill, couch, prescription medicine. But right now, this team is hot and they're in the playoffs. Yes, the postseason. Glad you can join us. Remember that our show is in 4 quarters plus overtime. Please hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. Dave Bontempo and Bill Gelman with you. Bill, how are you, man?
Great. Happy New Year, Dave.
Happy New Year to you. Pleasure to be with you. And the Eagles fans who started the season saying, why Eagles, why about this team, may now be saying, how Eagles, how? Because they have gotten to a point where they are over 500. They are in the playoffs and they have a game against the Dallas Cowboys, which surprisingly does not mean anything. But as we get into this, I think a lot of people can reflect on this particular run and say, well, you know what? This was a surprise.
Yes, it was. I mean, you got to remember, they were 2-5 at one point this season. And we were talking more about draft picks and, well, where will the Carson Wentz pick fall in? It wasn't like, this was all supposed to be icing on the cake. And as we say in the sports betting world, Eagles are playing with house money right now.
Yes, they are. And a lot of bettors are too after this, after having ridden them. They were favorites for 6 weeks in a row. And they had hit a number of those last week against Washington, either a loss or a push, depending on when bettors got into there. Some may have even gotten a victory. So Philadelphia gets past Washington, 20-16, enters the playoffs. And let's talk about Nick Sirianni. Rookie coach, gets them in there. 3rd rookie coach in Eagles history to get them into a playoff spot. So despite all the heat that has come on him, he did something during the year to get himself and this team rolling.
Yeah, I mean, he's I think the more impressive number is getting back to the 2-5 record. He's actually the 2nd rookie head coach in NFL history to get his team off to a 2-5 start or worse and get him in the playoffs. Frank Reich, who was the Eagles' former offensive coordinator on the Super Bowl team, he did it with the Colts in 2018. So it's, granted they had a soft schedule at the end of the season, but still to go from 2-5 to possibly being a 10-win team, I don't care who you're playing. That's pretty impressive in your first year.
Yes, it really is. And I think we saw some of the outlines coming. I don't know when you got the glimpse in your mind that this team was ready to take it to at least a level beyond bad. I saw this Jalen Hurts pass in the Denver Broncos game. At that time, they'd only had 3 wins. It was a beautiful laser into the end zone. It was dropped. But the thing that hit me was when he wants to, if he starts to feel it, he can really throw some darts and he can throw some touch on these passes. And that seemed to be a point that really indicated something to me. Now, how about you? When did you get the idea, what game or maybe even what game within a play that would show you that this team is a little better than people thought?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is with this team, you look at them, they're not a good first half team. So the fact that Jalen Hurts can rally the offense and turn things around in the second half, granted, it's not the way to play, but that shows the signs of someone who's capable of leading a team, because a bad quarterback's not going to be able to do that. I mean, I was just adding up the last 4 wins. In the second half, they've outscored the 4 opponents. Granted, they all have losing records, but they've outscored them over these last 4 weeks, 70-14 in the second half.
Wow. That sounds like that could be a Gelman's Gold candidate.
It is a Gelman's Gold candidate. I mean, it's you know, I think the Gelman's gold is, also the fact that, week 17 that they're in the playoffs. I think that's the real gold. I mean, who thought at the start of the season that we'd head into week 18 and the Cowboys game really wouldn't matter for either team?
No, we'll get to that in the ensuing quarters. But as you look at it, did you speak to anybody who thought at all at the beginning of the season that they would be talking about a playoff team at this time of the year?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's 8 wins maybe, but playoff team, no. I mean, it's you had too many holes on this team. You still have a lot of holes on this team, but they came together at the right time. They made the necessary adjustments, and I mean, it reminds me a little of the 2018. Granted, the talent is nowhere near the 2018 team, Super Bowl team, but they found a running game. They found a running game, not with Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders has been on and off the team with numerous injuries, but Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. At the beginning of the season, I don't think we even mentioned either one of these names. I think I mentioned Boston Scott in the first episode because he didn't have any carries against the Falcons, and I remember saying something along the lines of, once they start getting Boston Scott involved, that's another prong to this running game. And sure enough, now Boston Scott against Washington scores 2 touchdowns. Without him last week, they don't win that game.
They don't. Let's get into that in the second quarter as we look at the Eagles in Washington, and then the Eagles-Washington victory, and then the Eagles game against Dallas. Check that out in the second quarter of Why Eagles Why. Second quarter of Why Eagles Why, a team that is in the playoffs. They will host the Dallas Cowboys Saturday night, new time at the Link. There are COVID issues regarding the Eagles, which you all know about, which has adjusted the betting line. Fortunately for the Eagles now, they don't need this game. And we can talk in this segment about how about a guy like Boston, Great Scott. Bill, without him last week, they do not beat Washington.
Yeah, I mean, it's somebody had to step up, and he was the one on the offensive side of the ball. It was he made the most of his yards because he didn't have in terms of total yards, he didn't have a great game. He had like I want to say 47 yards, but of those 47 yards, Eagles got 12 points out of them from those 2 touchdowns. So it's that made a huge difference when you're talking about a game that's final score was 20-16, because you had Sanders out. He's probably not going to play this week either. So and Jordan Howard, he's coming off a neck stinger injury, so he wasn't the star back. I think they were limiting his carries a little bit because they want him healthy for the playoffs. So hey, when it's your number, and you get the ball, you make the most of it, and that's exactly what Boston Scott did.
Play of the game and the improvisational, maybe the play of the year. Eagles were losing 16-7, 4th down, first drive of the second half. Hurts stumbles, gets him the ball. He's running out to the right side, 4th and goal. They've passed up the field goal. And if he is stopped, I don't think they recover from that because they got 20 points as it is. And what he decided to do near the 1-yard line, he would have gotten stopped, but he leaped over the defender into the end zone. That, the play of the game, because otherwise he is stopped at 16-7 Washington with the ball midway in the third quarter. I think that could be one of the plays of the year for this team.
Yeah, because it's because the reality is they controlled their destiny by getting that score there. Because if they don't win the Washington game, then you come into week 18 and possibly needing help, having to beat Dallas. Now they don't have to worry about either scenario. So it's
no, they don't. They're locked in their spot. They know they'll be traveling someplace for the wild card weekend. To me, Boston Scott never looked more than Darren Sproles as he did in that game. And particularly with those swing passes out of the backfield, which he showed some great speed. So there were some weapons there offensively for the Eagles. But what about the defense? We were texting during the game saying, when will they apply some pressure on Taylor Heineke?
Right. Yeah, the defense was, for the most part, soft, even in the Washington's last drive of the game. They they got too far down the field for my comfort level. I mean, granted, I was texting you guys. I said I see a pick six coming. We didn't get the pick six, but we did get an interception to close out the game. So, and like I said, win is a win. Doesn't matter how you get it, but it's when the defense needed to step up and make a big play, they made a big play to close out the game. So I question their defense, and heading into the playoffs, the defense can't play like this. You play soft against Tampa Bay, LA, Rams, or whoever they face in that wild card game. You're not going to be able to play the same strategy, because it's not going to. Those teams will put you away, and it's going to be tougher to catch up on them.
Yeah, and to illuminate your point, Tom Brady against the Jets, when they could not get to him on the final drive, he went the length of the field and he hit Antonio Brown's replacement for the game-winning touchdown, a guy that hadn't even been in the game until Antonio Brown took off his shirt and threw it to the stands and left the game against the Jets. I'm looking at this defense saying, when do we see some linebacker pressure? When do we see some stunts? You have to try and do something to make somebody uncomfortable, and it's a head scratcher.
Yeah, it is. It's I look at Jonathan Gannon's play card, and it doesn't look like there's many plays on there. Like, you see the head coaching play cards, they're these giant sheets, and they're illuminated, and they're highlighted in different colors. Jonathan Gannon, you look at his play card, it looks like there's you think there's even 20 plays on that card?
That would be a lot.
So it's just like, it's frustrating to watch. In a big blowout game, you can relax a little bit when a game's tight, like it was on Sunday, and you knew going into that game that Washington was going to come ready to play because they got flat out embarrassed the week before against the Cowboys. And it was an NFC rivalry game, so it is what it is, but it's a little high blood pressure situation for some of these Eagles games.
Yeah, they are winning with some great plays at the end of games, and they're showing a lot of character, which we will examine in the third quarter of our show. All right, the third quarter of Why Eagles Why, and here is an appropriate use of the term. Why doesn't the Dallas Cowboys game mean anything this week, Bill?
Because both teams are pretty much in their playoff position. Maybe they move up a spot or two. For the Cowboys, it's really not going to matter, because only the first two seeds will get home field advantage for the first two rounds of the playoffs. First, number one seed, which is the Packers, they get the bye. So Dallas really has nothing to play for. The Eagles, if they were to move up a spot, they would only move up to the sixth spot. They're not going to get a home game either way. So it's just a matter of who they play. And it's, in my mind, I don't think you have to play. You can rest your stars a little bit this week. It's always great to beat Dallas. You want to beat Dallas because you hate losing to Dallas, but it's it's not necessarily, the game doesn't carry the same meaning because of the situation both teams are in.
Yeah, and you think back on the remember the meaningless game that they played against Dallas on the way to the Super Bowl. There was a 6-0 game, and all this explosive team, and you're waiting for this game to mean everything. But they do have to rest players. There's one theory that says you play them for a half, and
Right.
there's one theory that says don't play them at all. And I
Right.
guess somewhere in the middle of that is what is within each team's comfort level.
Right. And right now the wild card is, we're recording on Tuesday. The wild card is how many players are actually going to be healthy for this game, because the Eagles had a COVID outbreak on their team. I don't know who actually has it, but there's currently 12 players in protocols, including Jason Kelsey, Dallas Goddard, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Rodney McLeod, who had the interception at the end of the game. So there's a lot of key players who are out this week. Nate Herbig, he's another starter on the offensive line. So a lot of uncertainty going in this game, and I guess you can touch on how the line moves since you were following it when it opened, right?
Yes, it was. I saw that Eagles getting 2. And then last night before I went to bed, or this morning before I went to bed, they were getting 5. And now it's up to 7 as we're speaking with this news. And you know what? It really points to something, that how fortunate it is for them that they don't need this game, because everybody was hoping they would not need this game, and that that Dallas wouldn't need it. But now that the Eagles don't need it, what a blessing with this news. What if this happened next week? They are very fortunate that it happens now.
Yeah, and it's the good news is Carson Wentz, who was on the list last week for the Colts, he ended up, there was questions whether he would clear protocols in time, and sure enough, he made it back. Nick Sirianni, I forget which game it was, but he had COVID, and he made it back in time for the game. So it's the good news is there's recovery time in before the Dallas game, and again, touching on our previous point, it's you don't even know how many plays, snaps these guys on this list are actually going to play, because you want them healthy for the wild card game. This is a just a sort of like a regular season exhibition game is what this week is coming down to.
Now, you mentioned Nick Sirianni, and before the game against the Giants, he got it, and that line went all the way down to Eagles -3.5. And then that was on a rumor. Now, if you bought into it then as a player, you got the Eagles -3.5. And then that line within hours shot all the way back up to 10. I have never seen any particular thing influence a betting line the way COVID has. We saw the Las Vegas Raiders last week. We saw that line move after the Wentz news, and then after Wentz came back. So it is almost as if bettors have to wager upon the rumor of COVID and then hope that they wagered in right. And serious players do that.
Yeah, and it's you just got to follow it closely, see how it go day by day, and if you look at the lines overall this week, there's some wild lines on the board, and it's so it is going to be a very interesting final week of the regular season for bettors.
Yeah, they'll have a few games to choose from, and we'll take a look at some of those games and any further comments on the Eagles in the fourth quarter. All right, fourth quarter of Why Eagles Why. And the fans are starting to line up and say, who will the Eagles play in the wild card round? Right now, the likely candidates are the Los Angeles Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Rams play the San Francisco 49ers this weekend, and the Tampa Bay Bucs play the Carolina Panthers. Bill, as we look at these teams, first of all, let's take a look at the Tampa Bay Bucs, the defending Super Bowl champions. And the Eagles played them tough in a 28-22 loss. But there's something you picked up in that game about how they could not do that again.
Yeah, it was getting back to a point I made earlier. They fell in a giant hole early in the game. It was 21-7 at the half, 28-7 early in the third quarter. You can't play catch up against these better teams. This is Super Bowl champs. And they got Tom Brady at quarterback. You're talking about a guy with too many rings for my account. He's played in 10 Super Bowls, won 6, I believe. Am I correct there? And so he's one of the best of all time, or GOAT, we should say.
All-time leading passing yardage. Yeah, closing in on 100,000 total yards between regular season and playoffs.
Right. And so even though he's he's got two of his top receivers are out of the picture. You never count him out. Chris Godwin is out for the season with a torn ACL, and Antonio Brown just went AWOL on the team, and he's no longer part of the team. And then you have Leonard Fournette, who's still out with an injury, their top running back. We don't know what his status is going to be come playoff time. So a lot of his top weapons are off the team. So it's a different look, come wild card round. So it'll be interesting to see those two teams meet if the Eagles come better prepared, shall we say, where they actually don't wait till the second half to get the offense moving.
And to your point, in the last three Eagles' victories, they did not lead at halftime. Tied with Washington, tied with the Giants, and then trailing Washington by 9. And they showed a lot of gritty determination to come back. But in these later rounds, they could not afford to do that. When you look at the Los Angeles Rams, you're looking at a team that doesn't necessarily put teams away, but if Matthew Stafford is comfortable in the pocket, then they can tear you apart. And this leads to the comments we were talking about previously about making pressure occur on the quarterback. If there's one guy you have to pressure and can maybe cough it up for you, it would be Matthew Stafford. He threw another pick 6 last week. He's thrown 4 this year.
Right. He's on paper, that team, should be putting teams away easily. They have a lot on the offensive side of the ball. They have so much talent with their receiving core. Matthew Stafford's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's just not showing it. I mean, they barely got by the Ravens this past Sunday. And then the 49ers, who they're playing this week, seem to have their number. They've won 5 in a row against the Rams, including this season. They won 31-10. So it'll be interesting to see if they come to play this week and take care of their own business and lock up that number 2 seed, because the Cardinals are right on their tail. The Cardinals could still win the NFC West. That division hasn't been settled yet. We're going down to the final weekend with that division.
And the Cardinals will be hosting Seattle at the same time that the Rams are playing the Niners. And it's funny we talk about that, Bill, because that FanDuel promo we worked on together, where you bet the $5 and get $150 if they win. One of the games was the Niners against the Rams, and the Rams were significantly favored, and everybody's thinking, oh, they're the Rams, and the Niners haven't played yet. So a lot of money came in on that promo on the Rams. Right. And those people did not collect in that one because of the surprise. The NFC West probably has been one of the most intriguing of the divisions. So the NFC West has a compelling schedule, and we'll take a look at games outside the Eagles and Dallas that we're interested in our overtime segment. Overtime on Why Eagles Why. Dave Bontempo and Bill Gelman with you. Well, there's a lot to look at around the league and some tales that we want to get out there. We joked on this show last week about, hey, if Tampa Bay could just get past the Jets, big laugh, and they almost didn't, because the Jets had one of those near miss games. And the Buffalo Bills and Atlanta Falcons created an over-under story because the game total was 44. It ended there. But Matt Ryan of the Falcons scored a touchdown, taunted the Bills. The score came off the board. They needed a touchdown, didn't get it. So it became a push. And a lot of people were pretty upset by that. What about you, Bill? What have you thought about different tales for this overtime session?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of games that don't mean much this week. But there's one on Saturday that's the Chiefs Broncos. Actually has a lot more meaning than the Eagles Cowboys game on Saturday night. They're vying for either, the Chiefs are still in the mix for either the number 1 seed, the 2 seed, possibly as low as a 3 seed. They need this win, believe it or not. They're a 10-point favorite as of Tuesday. They played in last 2 Super Bowls, so this is their time to. We'll see if their road to the AFC Championship game goes through Kansas City, if they're even in the AFC Championship game, because the Bengals these last 2 weeks have really come on strong between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They both had career weeks these last 2 games. So there's a lot to follow there, and it's hard to believe, and it's just I'm struggling, Dave, to set aside that Eagles Cowboys window. It's just like doesn't have the same buzz that's going into this game. It's not like I don't know if I'll put the do not disturb on the man cave because it's by the second half, who knows who's going to still be playing in the game.
I like what our buddy Johnny Avello of DraftKings has said about situations like this, where the game's meaningless, and then you turn to your wife and say, I don't need football. I can do stuff around the house, and then you look like the big guy for doing those things. Now, when you're talking about the Kansas City game, how that will impact the games on Sunday, then, is that if they win, then Tennessee has to beat Houston to lock up the number 1 spot. And you say, oh, here we go, Tampa Bay and the Jets again, right? But Houston beat Tennessee earlier in the year. So you don't know with these matchups. And if Kansas City were to lose, now the Cincinnati-Cleveland game becomes important for Cincinnati. So I think bettors are a little confused about which way to go to. And so you kind of hop around and look from, one outlook to the other.
Yeah. And it's, so, and the way Saturday plays out with that first game could, really determine which games are worth watching on Sunday.
All right. Well, there's no meaningful Eagles game this week, but we've had a lot of fun on the episode. For Bill Gelman, this is Dave Bontempo saying thank you for tuning in. And next week we will have the playoff edition of Why Eagles Why.
Yeah.